The room was loud, music thumping, voices overlapping, the kind of place where confidence was measured by how much space someone took up. Near the center, a karateka stood tall. Broad shoulders, crisp belt tied perfectly. People around him listened as he talked. Not teaching, but declaring. His words were sharp, confident, almost dismissive of anyone who didn't look the part. A few steps away, Bruce Lee leaned against the wall. Quiet hands relaxed at his sides. No uniform, no belt on display. Just a simple outfit and a calm presence that almost blended into the background. The karateka noticed him and smirked. He looked Bruce up and down, clearly unimpressed. To him, this was just another small, silent guy watching from the edge. He laughed lightly and spoke louder, making sure others heard. His tone wasn't angry. It was worse. It was certain that he understood violence. Certain that the man near the wall, Bruce Lee, didn't respond. Didn't shift his stance, didn't react to the words or the attention. His calm felt almost out of place in a room built on noise and ego. People glanced between the two, some amused, some curious, most already forming assumptions. Have you ever seen someone underestimate another person just because they seemed quiet? The karateka mistook the silence for weakness. He mistook stillness for hesitation. And in that moment the room leaned toward him, unaware that everything was about to change. The karateka moved like the room belonged to him. Every step was deliberate, every gesture wide and visible. When he spoke, people turned. Not because he demanded it, but because he expected it. He talked about control. About dominance. About what happens when things get real. His stories were polished, repeated before, sharpened by applause and nods. Each sentence pushed the same idea. Power announces itself. Bruce Lee stayed where he was, still near the wall, still quiet, still watching without reacting. That contrast began to matter. The karateka noticed it again. Noticed how Bruce didn't lean in, didn't interrupt, didn't try to earn space in the conversation. To the karateka, that felt wrong. In his world, confidence competed. It took the center. It proved itself early, loudly, visibly. He stepped closer, not aggressively, just enough to reassert position, enough to make sure everyone could see the size difference, the posture, the authority. Bruce looked up briefly, met his eyes, then looked away. That small moment shifted something. Not for the crowd, but for the karateka. Because it wasn't avoidance. It wasn't fear. It was indifference. The karateka laughed it off, added more force to his voice, more certainty to his claims. As if volume could settle the imbalance he suddenly felt. Around them, people sensed it too. The tension wasn't loud, it wasn't hostile. It was psychological. Two ideas of strength sharing the same space, one that needed to be seen, one that didn't. Do you think confidence shows more through loud behavior or calm control? The karateka straightened his belt, rolled his shoulders, prepared himself. Not for a fight, but for validation. He was used to being challenged with words, not silence. Bruce remained still, and that calm began to feel heavier than any statement in the room. The karateka finally spoke directly to him. Not sharply, not angrily, almost casually, like someone already convinced of the outcome. He commented on appearances, on size, on how real confrontations don't look anything like movies or demonstrations. Each remark landed just loud enough for others to hear. A few people chuckled, some shifted uncomfortably. The room wasn't laughing with him anymore. It was listening. Bruce Lee didn't reply. His face didn't tighten. His posture didn't change. He listened the same way he had before, like the words carried no weight. That silence worked on the karateka. He filled it with more talk, more certainty, more explanation about how violence works when control disappears. He stepped closer again, not touching. Just inside personal space. A test without admitting it was a test. Bruce adjusted his footing slightly, barely noticeable. Not defensive, not aggressive, just balanced. That small movement caught a few eyes, enough to shift attention, enough to signal awareness without reaction. The karateka noticed, smiled, then shook his head, amused, as if the outcome was already decided. He raised his voice again, not shouting, projecting, speaking in absolutes. Strength beats speed, mass beats technique. Experience beats theory. The crowd absorbed it. Some nodded, others waited. Bruce finally spoke, just a few words, calm, measured. Not a challenge. More like a clarification. The karateka laughed. Not because it was funny, but because laughter felt safer than acknowledging it. The tension thickened, still no movement, still no threat. But everyone could feel it building toward something unavoidable. When someone keeps provoking without action, how do you usually expect the situation to end? The karateka took a breath, adjusted his stance, and for the first time, his confidence leaned forward, not outward. Whatever happened next would no longer be decided by words. The room seemed to shrink in that moment. Noise, music, chatter, all faded to a dull hum. The karateka had been talking, dominating the air, confident in every syllable. Now Bruce Lee simply stood, watching, unmoving. No response, no rebuttal, no hint of fear, just stillness. The karateka blinked, a fraction slower than usual. He realized that the quiet was heavier than any word he had spoken. It wasn't disrespect. It wasn't hesitation. It was something else. An unspoken authority that didn't need validation. The crowd leaned forward without realizing it. Eyes shifted. Some exchanged subtle glances, sensing the change, but unsure why. Even the barista paused mid-pour, hand frozen over the coffee machine. Bruce Lee's calm was not empty. Every muscle aligned, every movement measured. His presence alone started to reframe the situation. The karateka's smirk faltered. Confidence, once as loud as his voice, wavered under the weight of quiet. For the first time, he felt the tension move away from him and toward his own awareness of it. The room became a still frame, almost like time had slowed. A test was being conducted, not with words, not with force, but with presence and silence. Have you noticed how silence sometimes creates more tension than words? No one moved, no one spoke. The karateka tried to fill the space with another word, but it sounded thinner. Bruce didn't need to act. He only needed to exist in that calm, quiet posture. Minutes, or maybe just seconds, stretched like hours. The contrast between noise and stillness became a force in itself. The karateka's dominance, once assumed, now felt unstable. Every subtle shift in Bruce's stance magnified the tension further. The crowd sensed that something was about to happen. Not a fight, not a spectacle, something invisible yet undeniable. And in that pause, the lesson was clear. Sometimes silence is more powerful than the loudest declaration. Bruce Lee took a small step forward. No dramatic motion, no exaggeration. Just precision in balance and timing, visible only to those paying attention. The karateka shifted too, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. The quiet had rewritten the rules of the room. The tension was now palpable, waiting for the next few seconds to decide everything. Everything slowed in the room, though no one actually moved slower. The karateka squared his shoulders, ready to assert dominance. The crowd leaned in, some anticipating a flashy display, others just holding their breath. Bruce Lee remained still, no tension in the face, no wasted movement, his eyes calm, observing every micro shift in the opponent's stance. The karateka lunged. Not aggressively, but enough to test, enough to prove himself. Bruce didn't flinch, didn't dodge, didn't retreat. Instead, he shifted lightly, meeting the movement at a precise angle. The karateka's hands reached for him, and the crowd tensed, expecting the obvious outcome. But Bruce's body responded before impact. Every adjustment measured, every strike anticipated without a single overt motion. Time felt distorted. What was supposed to take minutes happened in seconds. The karateka, relying on size and reach, realized immediately that control, not raw power, was dictating the outcome. The room was silent except for shallow breaths. No dramatic noise. No crash. Just the subtle demonstration of skill and timing. In that short span, the dynamics shifted entirely. The Karateka's confidence, built over years of display, faltered. Bruce Lee, small in comparison, moved like a force of nature restrained only by discipline. In 10 seconds, assumptions about strength, dominance, and skill were rewritten. Do you think true strength is about power or about control? The crowd, still frozen, felt the weight of the answer. The Karateka paused, chest rising and falling quickly, awareness dawning. Respect wasn't demanded. It was earned in motion, in precision, in the quiet command of the body. Bruce Lee stepped back, calm as ever. No words, no gloating. Only control, only presence. The moment ended, but the lesson lingered. Every person in the room had witnessed something fundamental, that skill, precision, and calm authority could outweigh raw force in a fraction of a heartbeat. Even without drama, applause, or commentary, the impact of those 10 seconds echoed far beyond the immediate moment. The crowd knew. They had just watched a silent revolution in understanding strength. The room stayed still. No applause, no chatter. Just a quiet hum of disbelief, like everyone collectively held their breath. The Karateka stood frozen. His chest rose and fell quickly, mind racing. He had expected a fight, a display, a statement of dominance. Instead, he had faced precision, calm, and control in a way that needed no words to prove itself. Bruce Lee adjusted his stance slightly, almost imperceptibly. He didn't smile, he didn't gloat. He simply returned to a natural posture, calm, as he had been from the start. The witnesses slowly realized what they had seen. Not a spectacle, not a show of power, but a lesson in subtlety, in mastery, in understanding how true control can outweigh brute force. The Karateka's face reflected it first. A flicker of respect, mixed with astonishment. He wasn't defeated by words, by taunts, or by a crowd. He was confronted by something quieter, yet infinitely more powerful. Others in the room exchanged glances. They didn't need explanations. No one had spoken. The energy itself communicated the truth. Sometimes restraint speaks louder than action. As Bruce stepped back fully, the tension dissolved slowly. The room's silence became heavier than any cheer could have been. It left a lingering weight in the air, a recognition that real impact doesn't always need drama. And naturally, the reflection question arises. Why do you think moments without celebration often feel more powerful? The Karateka straightened, took a deep breath, and nodded subtly. He had seen something unexpected, something that challenged his assumptions about strength. The crowd returned to their seats, slowly processing the lesson. Bruce Lee's quiet authority had rewritten their understanding in a matter of seconds. No words were needed. No victory cries. Just observation, reflection, and the invisible mark of mastery left on everyone who had witnessed it. The moment would be remembered not for its spectacle, but for its weight and subtlety. A quiet echo that lingered far longer than any loud display could have. The room remained suspended in the aftershock of what had just occurred. No one moved for a moment, as if acknowledging that something unspoken had changed the balance of power. The Karateka lowered his shoulders slowly. He had expected confrontation, attention, maybe even admiration. Instead, he was left with respect he hadn't anticipated, and a lesson he hadn't earned through force. Bruce Lee didn't linger. He walked toward the exit with calm precision. Every step measured, his posture relaxed yet commanding. No glances back, no words of triumph, no gestures to draw recognition. The crowd instinctively straightened, eyes following him. But there was no applause, no commentary. Only a silent acknowledgement that something had happened. A moment of mastery beyond spectacle. Witnesses absorbed it differently. Some felt awe. Some felt respect. Some felt the weight of a truth they hadn't known they were missing. That true authority doesn't need validation. The Karateka watched Bruce's back as he left, chest heavy with thought. He realized something subtle. The impact of a person isn't in how loudly they announce themselves, but in the quiet confidence they carry. The room slowly returned to normal. Music resumed. People shifted in their seats. Yet the memory of the moment lingered like an invisible thread. It didn't require anyone to talk about it. The lesson was understood without explanation. And naturally, the question arises. Do you think true authority needs to explain itself? Why or why not? Bruce Lee's exit left no evidence, no announcement, no justification, the Karateka. And everyone else present was left to reconcile their assumptions with what they had witnessed. Sometimes the most powerful lessons are the ones you don't talk about. Sometimes mastery speaks quietly, and those who notice are forever changed. And in that silence, respect and understanding are earned, not demanded.